Hey guys, it's Shelly. This is module 3, and for this journal entry, we are going to look at using different types of graphs to explore data. For the assignment, we only had to do 5 different types of graphs, but I started playing around with SPSS and got a little carried away, so we'll quickly talk about what I did and what I found. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So this is actually the staff survey.save data set. So we'll start again by looking. Of course, there's 2 different views. There's data view and variable view. So looking at the data view, you can basically look and see that they had employees that were assigned ID numbers based on the city and an age range. And then there's their employment status, their length of service, a whole bunch of other different metrics. And then once we're going to focus on over here is total satisfaction, and then length of service in 3 different groups, and log transforms of service, and then age read codes in 4 groups. And as you can see, if you hover over it, it'll tell you that, like this one, for instance, is numeric, and then it's measured in a scale score. So then we come over to the variable view. And again, these just give the labels for all the different columns or the metrics and what type of data is collected, and then the different types of measurement. And you can see on here, this one actually has all 4. There's scale, there's nominal, ordinal, or maybe just 3. Scale, nominal, ordinal. Anyhow, so this was the data we were working with. And then it went into graphs. And this is where I got a little crazy. So the first thing we were supposed to do was to look at a histogram. So of course you can go in and create a histogram just as you could with any type of graph. But to go over this, basically the mean of 33.97, here's the standard deviation. The number of cases was 491. So I also went ahead and showed the normal curve. So you could see the normal bell curve. And then if we look at where the data actually fell, there really aren't too many outliers. It's pretty evenly grouped. So this was the frequency of occurrence, and then the total staff satisfaction scale. So the next thing I did, we were charged with making a graph, and a graph of total satisfaction scale. So this time, you go into graphs, but instead of not using the chart builder like we have been in the past, you go into legacy dialogues. So I was playing around and found this cool little trick. You can actually go into help and search application. And if you type legacy dialogues, you can kind of look through here and it gives you the menu and the different steps. So you can look at your parametric and non-parametric tests. You can go into chart builders. Under the legacy dialogues, you can go into simple stacked clustered. You can look at various ways to summarize things. So it's actually pretty cool because you can just kind of play around with all of this data. And then there's other features that we haven't learned yet. So anyhow, for this one, of course, it was divided by permanent and casual. This is the mean total satisfaction scale. But this was kind of cool because this was actually the length of service for every single employee. So this data is pretty overwhelming, but I just thought it was kind of cool that you could actually do it for every employee, and then you could kind of look at where the normal bell curve would fall. But then, excuse me, I went through and recreated the graph this time with the permanent and the casual, and then grouped it by the length of service in three different groups, so being less than or equal to 2 years, 3 to 5 years of service, and 6+ years of service. So you can see that this darker blue color is employees that have less than or equal to 2 years of service seem to be higher in satisfaction than those that have any longer service. If we're looking at the permanent employees, you can see that the 6+ group is a little higher in satisfaction level than the permanent. Yet if you come over to the casual employees, you'll see that it's just the opposite. You'll see none of these scores are below 30. So to show you where this was, again, because I like this feature, I'm going to go into the legacy. And in this one, we were looking at graphs, legacy, dialogue. Then we were looking for a bar graph, and it was clustered because there was more than one piece of data. And then we were looking at summaries for groups. And when you click on that, that's when you got this graph right here. So then the next thing that we were charged with was creating a scatter plot. Same sort of thing. You're going to go into, actually with this one, my screen's getting away from me again. Hopefully in just a minute it'll go away. I apologize. Still haven't figured out how to kind of get this part right here to hover and go away. There we go. So for the scatter plot, you can go to Graphs Chart Builder. This is the feature that we've used many times before. So from down here, you could go into a scatter plot, which is what I did. And then you choose the type of scatter plot you want and basically just drag it here. So I drug it there. And then we worked on years of service, and then the log service transformation variable. And when you drag that over, and then it gives you the option to hit OK, and it'll actually create this graph. And looking at this graph, again, one of the very first things you do in evaluating graphs is you look for outliers. So if you look right here, there's one outlier right here. There's a few here, but for the most part, the data is clustered and linear, so no positive or negative correlations. And again, this was the scatter plot of the total staff satisfaction scale. And then I went back into that graph chart builder and just kind of playing with different options. I built a couple here. So, of course, the total staff satisfaction scale was put on the y-axis. And then depending on how you group these at the bottom, on the x-axis, this time I put the age code in 4 different groups. And again, it's just the drag and drop. You go into Graphs, Chart Builder, and we went into box plot, and then I chose the one I wanted. And it's just a matter of going through these variables and dragging them where you want. So like I said, to drag the total staff satisfaction here to the y-axis. And then depending on what you drag over here to the x-axis, see, this was the first one I made, the age recode in 4 groups. So it actually looked at ages from 18 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50, and then 50 plus. And so looking at this, basically, go back here. If you look at this, although it's closer, you kind of look for the mean to see where things are. Age groups are fairly even. There's a little bit bigger range here of the 41 to 50 age group. But overall, your 18 to 30 is more tightly clustered, meaning that there's less of a range in their satisfaction scales. You can see right here that there is actually some outliers, so we really don't take those into consideration. Then I went back into Graph Chart Builder, and all I did was change the variables. So I left total staff satisfaction scale over here on the y-axis, and then changed to age groups. And you can see that it's actually in tenure increments instead of up here where the 18 to 30 or the 50 plus. To me, you don't get as accurate of data. So doing it like this, again, the line in the middle represents the mean, and then the whiskers on either edge is the range. You see a couple of outliers here. And looking at this, it makes it very easy to see that your under 20 age group has the lowest staff satisfaction. So, and then there's also the biggest range in scores, which means your employees under the age of 20 are either extremely dissatisfied or they're about average with their satisfaction in their employment. Whereas you can see as the age groups go up, they're a little bit closer to this 30 mid-range as their bottom level of satisfaction. And you could use this to come to many different conclusions, but we'll come back over here. The last type of graph we were charged with making was a line graph. And again, you can go into Graph Chart Builder. We'll come over here, Chart Builder, lines. And this was kind of cool because it gives you the option of a single line or multiple lines. So in this case, we chose the multiple lines. And you're going to go into your legacy data or your legacy dialog rather. And we went into other statistics, and again, I apologize for my screen. I'm gonna go just because this is the easiest way for me to find it. And I like this new tool, so I'm gonna be using it all the time. But we went into graphs, legacy dialog. See, again, you can come through here and you can look at the different type of line graphs. And to me, this is really cool because it gives you just a brief overview of what your options look like. So you can kind of see the different things you could do. And in the case of the graph we made there, we went to line and then we went to multiple. But you see, if you just look at multiple lines, then you can look at the values of individual cases or summaries of separate variables, or in this case, we went to the summary of groups because we wanted to look at grouped data. And just like any other graph, you're going to take your variable and you're going to drag it to where you want. In this chart, we use the other statistic. And so I found the mean total staff satisfaction, and you can either drag it over or you can highlight it and click the arrow and then it inserts it. And then for your category axis, we did the age recode in 4 groups. And then this time we defined our lines by employment status. So when we went into this, I come back down here. Again, here's your mean total staff satisfaction. The blue line represents your permanent, the purple represents your casual, and then you can look at where their satisfaction falls based on the age groups. And so those are the 5 basic types of graphs that you can use to explore data. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.